There's a milkman waiting in the sky. He likes to deliver dairy so long as it's homogenized. There's a milkman waiting in the sky. He drives a run-down milk float and his milk's been pasteurized. He told me, let the bovines moo it, let the bovines chew it, let all the bovines boogie. Da 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 da.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Ninja Baseball Batman video here. As you just seen from the other one, we had just completed stage 3, so now is stage 4, which is actually Texas. And this is Captain Jose once again, and as you can see, various crazy baseballs that we're facing. I don't know if I may mention this before, but like some games that you play in the arcade, when your character is like about to lose health, you kind of flash red like that, so it kind of helps you as a visual aid that you're just about to die. And here's more of those crazy hamburgers. And that's a really nice thing about this game, that I probably mentioned it like 8 times in the original Mame review, but not only are the character sprites very colorful, but like the backgrounds are. And even in this stage here, you'll see the colors just seem to be like changing as I'm actually playing this level. And that really is a pretty cool effect. And for some reason in that part, the storm cloud brought you up to the level there. And now, I'm guessing the furniture is just mad at your character and it wants to stop you. And here's like the little mini fridges that are attacking our character now. And they grab you and freeze you. That's one thing if you saw the Angry Video Game Nerds video. There is no point in trying to make sense out of any of this game, because it is simply not going to make that sense. So, don't really try to make sense of the Jack-o'-lantern Grim Reaper there shooting you with lightning and fire, because it doesn't make any sense, and it's really not made to make any sense. That's what the cool thing about this is. It's one of those games that really you can tell simply from the title and the whole premise of it is, it's one of those games that simply does not take itself too seriously, and that's the relaxed atmosphere that's really cool when you play. Now here's one of those things where like the baseballs all form together to make a big enemy that you have to fight. So I thought that was kind of cool. And in this case, for some reason, they're purple. And there's a picture in the background which is kind of looking at you. And there's always one of those like things telling you you have to go, you have to go. And what's kind of weird about that is that those girls, all they really did was drop like health power-ups. They didn't like attack any of the enemies or anything, or cause like them to be damaged. So I guess they were still kind of a little help in that respect if you were really low on health. I can remember some other games where like something would attach you like that, and you'd either have a certain amount of time to shake it off, or you could just get blown up like I had in that part there. And now there's this table here. You can see all the food and everything on it. And I remember when I was playing this part, I was desperately trying to beat up the table so I could knock the food off of it, and then I could get more health for my character, who, as you can see, was just like desperately dying there. And at this point, it was just kind of moot, because my character isn't dying anymore because I'm on my next continue, so it didn't really help. Now this is the Ghost Buffalo. And the cool part about this boss is that he has many different configurations and many different attacks that he has. So it's not just a the guy slashes his sword and then you just dodge the sword slashes. So after a while, he's going to change how he attacks and how he even looks. So that's a really cool kind of thing. And now I'm not sure if that whole thing where he bobs back and forth between the sides of the screen there was a glitch, or if that was supposed to happen. And there was that crazy thing with the sword. That I honestly couldn't find any way to dodge or avoid. And I always find it cool that when your character respawns sometimes, it'll actually hurt the enemies. So I always thought that was a good thing in these beat-em-up games. Especially if it's like one of these bosses who can do that like crazy sword slashing thing and that can take out most of your health in like no time at all. And you could at least get back from being attacked from him. You didn't have to just sit there and take it. So when your guy got back up, it just blasted him away. I do think it's kind of cool how this enemy will fall apart and then go back together. You'll notice while he doesn't totally change what he's doing, like his moves become a bit more aggressive while I'm getting closer to killing him, which honestly, a lot of these arcade games, I always called that like a cheap way to get more of the player's quarters by having a character just like totally go into overdrive when the boss battle is about to end, and it's like, yeah, you think you got far, player? Forget about this. I'm gonna just like totally beat you. Or I've also seen times when like the boss, like toward the very end, will have like maybe like a little grain of health left, and they'll like spawn like tons of ninjas or tons of whatever common enemy you had in that game, and they just all group up and all try to attack you at once. And yeah, there's just a lot of games that would do this because my opinion was that they were just cheap and they wanted to get all your quarters as much as they possibly could. And now the enemy fell apart, and as you've seen from the previous video, if you ended the level and you had the thing in your hand, you got a score bonus. And of course, this was a baseball glove that we had found. And now on to stage 5, which for some reason is in Florida. So you're gonna see some like a lot of like sunny and vacation looking atmosphere here from what we would think. And what's crazy is like after a while some of the enemies don't even look like baseball like you have these squids here that are not really like a baseball enemy. I like some of the moves that some of the characters can do sometimes, like how Straw here can do that one where he's just like pogo sticks on the enemy. The problem with a lot of those jump attacks is there was a lot of times where it was hard to find the time where it actually would work out and you wouldn't actually get hurt. So unless it was like one of the area effects where you'd hit like the 2 buttons and it would hit a lot of enemies, you had to really find the times where these moves would really help you. Like those massive swings that all the enemies do, all the characters do. They're always a good move to do because they do a lot of damage. And they're a wide range of attack. And I was liking these games when you like attack an enemy and like their face changes, like in this case the red baseballs, their sunglasses kind of get bigger when you hit them. It's a weird effect, but it's always a cool little thing that just helps to know that something's going on. And I definitely like all the different crazy baseball enemies you have, because there are, if you look at all the ones that I've been fighting during this playthrough, there just are so many different ones. And there, of course, was my best impression of me dying again. But as I was saying, there's just so many different like variations of like taking a baseball and putting arms and legs on it, that whoever made this game honestly was very, very, very creative. And I applaud that, which sadly these days in the current state of video games, few and far between video games will you see like them really be creative, them really just like say, hey, let's take this one concept and run with it. Let's make it just crazy and exciting. A lot of times it just becomes the normal formula of the drab shooter. You're not going to find anything like a lot of these old arcade games, which, personally, in my opinion, that's the great thing about Mame. You can find so many wonderful, fun little games that you can play that remind you of all the past, where you just go into the classic arcade and find like tons of little games that would just excite you, and they would just be these simple concepts, simple 2-button games. And don't look now, but now we're facing baseball bats wearing batting helmets who are swinging other baseball bats at you, so that's really kind of a crazy concept. But what I was really saying is before is you just get a lot of cookie cutter games nowadays, and I'm sure that's really not going to change anytime soon. So if you're watching this like when I released it in 2012, or if you're watching it years and years from now, and the new game consoles are out, unless something really changes in gaming, sadly a lot of these really over-the-top crazy game things where it shows that like people can think of all over-the-top things to do. I feel there's just gonna still be few and far between. Like games like No More Heroes is my best example. It's just one of those like simple concepts, but it's just fun because it's done right, really. And yeah, this level just looks like this part of the level at least kind of looks like a baseball memorabilia factory, maybe, because there's just like these little things that are popping out in there. For some reason, the baseball guys are falling in the hole as well. I'm not really sure why that's happening. And these weird like catcher monster robot things are a bit annoying because they take quite a few hits compared to your normal baseballs, who go down rather easily. So like those robots, you really have to like beat the hell out of them in order to really get them to go down. Whereas as you see these baseballs, there's a lot less problems beating them up. Well, except if they all throw fire at you at the same time, that kind of becomes a problem. I just still find it so random that you're facing these like there's those hamburgers that just jump around and they have teeth and stuff, and they click and clack and everything. And during this whole video, I hope my commentary is not too boring for you. But here comes the next boss, who is the mechanical alligator. What that has to do with baseball, or of course what the ghost bull really had to do with baseball, I'm not really sure. But just like the rest of the game, these bosses are just really over the top and crazy. And I remember when I was facing this alligator, it reminded me of Leatherhead from Ninja Turtles, kind of, because you don't really see many video games where your enemy is a alligator that stands on 2 legs. So I naturally drew that comparison between this and Ninja Turtles. And of course, when it comes to any beat 'em up, there always are parallels you can draw to Ninja Turtles, because with most of us who grew up in the 80s and even the 90s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 4-player arcade game, was just one of those big games that everybody remembers, and it just was a really good game that kind of set a standard. That and like stuff like Final Fight really were like your defining beat 'em up experience. And now you see his tail is detached, and the problem with the tail is if you don't kill it, it'll attack you too. So it's like a independent enemy along with the boss. And if you didn't notice there, the tail actually ended up dying, so if you start to beat it up and you keep beating it up, you will kill the tail, so it won't be able to attack. The only thing I have to say is that the mechanical alligator doesn't look all that mechanical. It basically looks like an alligator wearing armor, but not like all robot and cyborg like. If they made it look more like a cyborg, it would have been a little bit more like mechanical. And it looks like that was some kind of like shoes. And now here's another one of these bonus stages where you're supposed to hit a button really fast and you're supposed to like get that meter to go all the way up, but no matter what I did or how fast I pressed the button, I could never get it to go all the way up. But I guess if you had some sort of turbo controller, maybe you could actually do it a little bit better than I could. And for some reason they said this is the final level, but you can obviously see there actually is one level after this. And this is, of course, is Chicago, so you have, like, your gangster-style enemies and everything. We have to exploit every stereotype possible in some of these games. I always think that's funny, and some of these enemies have their own death music. So, as you can see, unlike the other enemies, which are more baseball-based, these are just, like, your stereotypical Chicago gangster-type things. And now here's our car. And they're kind of not like gangsters, but gangster dogs. So, a bit of a zany thing there at least. I think that's kind of cool how the enemies will do that thing where they shoot around the, the door and actually break through it. That's a pretty cool idea there. And I might have mentioned this in the other video, but just like every game, you'll have varying strength and varying abilities. Even drawing another parallel to Ninja Turtles, like the foot soldiers, you'll have your different color foot soldiers that do different things, whereas this has the different color enemies who have different strengths and sometimes even different ways of attacking. So that's kind of a cool thing that was added here instead of having to be cookie cutter. I remember in the game, the Ninja Warriors, I actually had mentioned the same thing, because there's like those generic guys in the green fatigues, and then there was guys in a different color green fatigue, and they could do jump kicks. So you just gave like your generic enemy more of an ability, and they just didn't seem as generic as they normally would have. So adds a little bit of spice to a normally routine punch, kick, jump type thing you got going on here. Oh wow, that was kind of unexpected that all the baseball bat guys just kind of fell there, and then they all just got set on fire, so you didn't have to fight them. I don't know if you saw that, but there's the regular white bases. If you throw them, they get thrown once and they're done. But if you find one of the blue bases, there's like a lot that you can throw at them. You keep throwing them until you're done. Probably about like 5 to 10 projectiles, which is actually kind of cool. Of course, as you've seen any of the time I've been playing in this playthrough, I tend to waste that, but it's one of those things. You have an advantage over an enemy, and if he were to knock you over, it falls on the ground and you lose it. You want to use it up, of course. Now, when I'd originally seen all those crates, I was thinking there was going to be like power-ups and stuff in them, but sadly there weren't. Because a lot of games you'll see crates or boxes or garbage cans or something. I always thought it was kind of weird that it was garbage cans, but the point is you'd see like a container that you'd break, and then you get like a power-up, more life or more score or something. But I know I've mentioned it a lot of times that score really hasn't meant anything for me in a while. You sadly don't get that whole the corner arcade where you actually want to get the high score so everybody sees it. And here we have a makeshift villain, who, in my opinion, other than looking like a big version of those dogs in the suits, it kind of looks like you took like a hobo character with like hair all over his face and just gave him a coat, and now he's the enemy. Hence the name makeshift villain. Like, hurry! We need a bad guy for this level. Oh, he'll do. That'll be fine. Let's give him the cool coat and the gun. And that's one thing I do find a bit strange about this game, is that when your character dies, instead of having something like in English, it still leaves the original Japanese coming out of their mouths. And for some reason, it looks like the boss lost his hat, so you can see his little cute curls coming out of his head. And I know I've mentioned this every time I play beat-em-up game, but I always get annoyed when like the ending boss will like spawn tons of extra little characters who you have to fight him and those characters too. Which in this battle you've seen a couple times where extra like little gangster dogs will pop up in the background. I'll have to fight them. Because a lot of times if you don't fight them, they'll kind of just all swarm you, and yeah, that's never fun. I think it's kind of cool how like some of the wine barrels will kind of leak in the background. It's another cool little added effect when you're playing this game. And when I first saw that, I was like, wow, that's crazy that the statue is so big. 10,000 points, as I'd mentioned when you found the items. And now that you found out that the commissioner, who was the guy who's trying to get you to find these items in the first place, is actually the guy who had been the bad guy all along. And there, of course, have been other games that have done the same concept. I can think of a few off the top of my head, but I know how stuff goes. Even if it's a game that's like 30 years old, people will be like, oh my god, you just spoiled that storyline for me. You told me that that guy is really the villain. But yeah, I can honestly think of one more recently that's it was kind of a revamp, and then it got a re-release on a more modern console. And even if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you'll think about it and you'll figure out which game it was where the ending boss was the quote-unquote ally that you had. Now here's more of those umpire robot things that I had earlier. And as you can notice here, even with Roger here, these things take quite a beating, so they're not like your pushovers like all your other enemies. And even they had that music like the little gangster dogs did in the other level. And I can think of a lot of these beat-em-up arcade games where you'll have an enemy that'll have kind of an electric charge thing that'll actually stun you or phase you for a moment. And what's kind of weird is there's sometimes you'll do your like big swing there, and it won't actually take health away. It'll just kind of happen. And now here's some more of those card guys that were from our Las Vegas level. This reminds me of another thing in a lot of beat-em-up games where you see where you will be fighting, and then a lot of the enemies from earlier in the game will kind of come back and make an encore appearance here. And as you saw there, Roger just kind of got like beat up by all the gangs. As I always say, it's like he got all gang raped by the enemies. They tend to do that when they can. They always use, you know, they always use their strength in numbers. And the baseball gloves here had the same death music as the other enemies did. I don't know if I made this reference already in the previous part of this review, but I know at least in this part, this grading kind of reminds me of the bridge level in Ninja Turtles The Manhattan Project for NES. Which I think is a pretty cool little thing here that you could, it just kind of looks like that whole thing because you're trying to get to the baseball stadium, so I'm guessing that's why it's kind of a bridge. But just the grading thing reminds me of that level, which was another really great game level. There's another time where those girls came and they didn't like attack your enemies, they just threw them some power-ups that would give me some more health. And that was kind of cool how the baseballs just kind of jump out of the scoreboard there. In fact, when I had seen so many of them like jump out like that, I was thinking they were going to do one of those things where all the baseballs go together and form the big baseball like enemy man. But I was surprised that it kind of didn't. So I was thinking to myself, we're getting toward the end of the game, so why not a like a bigger enemy to face me? And I definitely have to say, out of all 4 characters of this, I might have mentioned it last time, but Captain Jose has to be my favorite because he's just the most balanced character. He's just like easiest to play this game with because he just does everything right, whereas the other characters have, like, one character has the speed, one character has the power, and the other character has the reach. And of course, that's the point where when I was playing this, when I was doing this gameplay, I was thinking to myself, wait, but a big baseball man can't be the enemy because if you remember in the Angry Video Game Nerds video, it was the robotic Babe Ruth character, so I was thinking to myself, yeah, this can't be right. But then I realized they were going for the whole, you know, multiple bosses thing in the end. And one thing you'll definitely notice with this enemy is it didn't even have a life bar, so it couldn't be an ending boss. And then, just as expected, the level continued on for a little while. And now you're thinking to yourself, oh, maybe the real boss, but then the windy plane comes back. So at this point I was thinking to myself, oh, maybe they're gonna have all the bosses come in. That'd kind of be cool to fight them all again. I think it was one of the Ninja Turtles games that I actually had played at one point, and they actually did that, where you fought all the bosses. I think it was even Crystallis for NES, where there was an area of the game before the final boss where, like, you had to fight the witch, you had to fight General Kabasi, you had to fight a bunch of the other enemies that you faced during the game, and it was just kind of like an endurance match that you had very little ability to regain your health. I just noticed that in the back there's Unida cat food, a little advertisement there, kind of random. It's probably not even a real brand, just kind of like a fun thing for the game. It's kind of weird how, like, when the plane there, he does a certain attack, he like turned like completely white. And like right there, it happened again. He looks just kind of like a sketch. He didn't even look like the character that he was. And this was like really getting to me when I played this, so that's why I just figured I would just do the like El Cheapo big swing attacks trying to beat him, because he just kept doing like the same old like punch you in the face thing if you're not careful, and that could like take a lot of your health away. And I definitely like these bosses where it seems like as you beat them, you're just like breaking them and breaking them. And like every time you see me die here, I always think to myself, boy, am I glad I'm playing this on an emulator and I'm not actually having to spend all these quarters, because I've never actually counted it up when I do a full playthrough of an arcade game, but I would imagine it'd be quite a few dollars I'd actually be spending on playing this game if it falls in the arcade. And the only time I'll actually spend like a decent amount of money on a game is if let's say it's the arcade that I visit for the first time, and it's like the first time I play a game. Like, it was at one time I was at Dave & Buster's and I played House of the Dead 4. I played that for a bit because it was like the first time I played that game, and that was really fun. And so much for the windy plane. And now for the real final boss. And at this point, since the King Babe had come out, I was kind of sad that that you wouldn't see the other ending bosses. You only saw the windy plane. I thought it would have been kind of a cool idea to bring them all out. And now the key to beating the King Babe here, since he had so many like different attacks that would like hurt you a lot, is when he was on the ground, you definitely had to start hitting him a lot. And if you didn't do that, it just made this boss battle a lot more long. I don't know why, but I just love that sound that he makes when he falls over. It's like, oh. It's just one of those weird things in a video game that I just think is funny when it happens. He's like this crazy strong enemy, or as James Rolfe mentioned in his AVGN video, he's like a robotic version of Babe Ruth. Although in a way it's kind of like the commissioner guy. You see he's that little tiny guy on the top. He's like riding the mech and he's controlling it. So it kind of is a robotic Babe Ruth. And you know, those tornadoes after a while get really annoying. So I think what I end up doing for the rest of this playthrough is going to Captain Jose here, because I was able to beat the King Babe a lot better with him. Because I noticed with Straw, I wasn't able to do my attacks as efficiently as I am here. So that's why I stayed with this character to the very end. And as I had mentioned earlier, I found Captain Jose to be my favorite because he's just honestly the most well-rounded character. He's not as unbalanced as the rest. I think this was the last life I had to do. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, I don't think I did, but if you didn't notice it, when your character gets hurt, the actual little icon by your life bar, actually, the eyes bug out and everything. That's a cool little effect that I really didn't notice until, honestly, right now. You might have seen it just right there, like right then. And apparently the guy himself is the actual bonus item, and now it's 50,000 instead of being 10,000. And yes, just to finish a crazy zany game, we hit him with a baseball bat all the way to the moon. And now here's going to be your ending credit sequence showing all the different characters. And you'll see like the windy plane comes back again, and that's his original orange color. Whereas at the end there, he was kind of yellowish. But yeah, Ninja Baseball Batman, as you can see, great little game, really fun beat 'em up. I would highly recommend, even if you like watch this whole 45-minute playthrough, like 15 minutes in the first video, over 30 minutes in the second video, even if you watch the whole thing, especially if you have a bunch of friends that you could play it with, it's definitely worth playing. As you can see, the ending here glitches a little bit, but hey, what do you expect for emulation? If you had one of the 43 arcade boards, I'm sure you wouldn't have had this that came to America. But Ninja Baseball Batman is an excellent little game here. I really can't say it enough. Nice animation, great gameplay, really fun game. It's really worth your time and really worth looking up. Well, this has been another Game Nexus Mame Review Part 2, the rest of the game. And I shall see you in my next video. Later.